young men speaking in the city square, trying to tell somebody that he cares. Can you blame the voice of youth for asking what is true? Yeah, the ones that you're calling wild are gonna be the leaders in a little while. When will the lonely voice of youth cry, what is true? This our world's waking to a newborn babe, and I solemnly swear it'll be their way. You better help that voice of youth find what is true. And the lonely voice of youth cries, what is true?
Boom! Happy New Year, or New Yar, as Ixnon has nicely pointed out for me. Welcome, everybody. It has been a hell of a past year, and it's going to get exponentially crazier very soon. So, just to prepare you all. And to that end, we have our Sampel. I hope you all have some Sampel. And of course, we have more in our Muppet mug. Have you considered? You should. You should get a mug like this to remind you. Just to consider. And I screwed up my cups, so that's unfortunate, but these things happen. I've got some chai, masala chai from Table Rock Tea Company. That is real American grown tea. So they are awesome. And I've got my captain's mug. Oh, full of Bear Claw. Bear Claw is another excellent Table Rock tea. Very pungent. Very pungent oolong tea. So yeah, it's kind of my favorite part of Friday. Well, I certainly hope that's true, and I'm glad I can deliver your favorite part of the day. Let's open to our favorite little book here, Bed of Procrustes by Nassim Taleb. We'll kind of go to a random spot here and we'll see what we get. The worst damage has been caused by competent people trying to do good. The best improvements have been brought by incompetent ones not trying to do good. Well, that sounds about right as usual. Nassim Taleb for the win. Yeah, I think actually that sums up a lot of what we're seeing in the world today, or have seen over the past year, in fact, and will continue to see going into the next year. And because that's certainly the case. But it's good to reflect on what we have seen. And AI has still not delivered AGI, which is a 0% surprise to anybody who actually knows how AI works, which seems to be approximately zero of the people talking about it and saying AGI is coming or will come or can come. It's how you know who's actually knows what they're talking about and who is a BS artist. Maybe they have a bachelor's of art in BS. Would make them a BS artist, I suppose. Much like Fusion, which was advertised as just 5 years away in the 1950s, maybe the 40s even, I forget. It still delivers absolutely nothing. Right? That's not to say AI delivers absolutely nothing, but AGI delivers absolutely nothing. And this trend will continue because hope springs eternal in a world where we live in a fantasy induced by technology. And I think that's a useful way to think about the world. If you want to get conspiratorial about it. The tech bros have a reason for keeping us in their fantasy, and no, it's not merely to make money. They actually want to live in that world for real. Um, or they think if others live in that world while they live in the real world will be a better place. Like they believe that, irrespective of the cash. That's why a lot of people waste a lot of money on a lot of stupid ideas. And then you can think, oh, well, the politicians like that because it affords them more control over the population, which again, their real motivation might be, well, we want the real world to work out well. So if we control them through AI or through this technological fantasy world with the help of the tech bros, right? It's not an active conspiracy towards a common goal, but it may look like a conspiracy, that's for sure. And the thing is, there's a lot to notice from the past year in particular that should have become clear because last year in particular was the great revealing. I'm not saying the great revealing is going to stop anytime soon. I'm just saying that certainly last year was great revealing. I don't think we've learned our lesson. We're still stuck in Charlie Kirk vying for power hell, which is foolish, but also we're stuck there still. But the lesson we should have taken away from last year, or one of them, is that people are good at certain things. And when they start doing other things, not so much, not so good. You know, we seem to believe that if you can say teach really well and you're one of the top teachers, that you can be a good political critic. That's not likely. It's possible, but it's not probable. Or perhaps you're good at breaking down arguments of certain class of people or a certain set of beliefs. So now you think you can comment on foreign wars. Or maybe you're just good at explaining things. And so you think you can explain anything, irrespective of how much you know about it. Or perhaps you think you know something about so-called education, which is a psyop word. So you'll be good at commenting about the woes of academia while you're trapped inside of it. If you're in academia, you're not going to understand academia well enough to comment on it. If you left academia, you probably need a good 10 years outside doing something non-academic, which would not be running a YouTube channel commenting on academia, by the way, before you could comment on it. Or, maybe you have a YouTube channel, so now you're a journalist. That is not how the world works. We're seeing a lot of these attempts to make the online world more real, more salient, more important, more interesting than the real world, because the real world's really messy. And the online world is pretty well reduced, and you can filter it pretty easily for yourself without even realizing it. And then you can complain that everybody else is doing that to you while you're also doing that to you. And then you get this appreciation for the sacrifice of somebody to make their dying public online. And you can see that as a good thing because it's this sacrifice this person is making. They're sacrificing their privacy and their intimacy with their close friends and family to make your fantasy technology place more important. Why is this a good thing? I mentioned this before. This is sort of like the people who say, "Oh, wow, it was worth it that Jimi Hendrix overdosed on drugs because of the great guitar music he left behind." And I'm like, I wish he hadn't ever played the guitar and got involved in drugs. That would be better for everyone. Yeah, you wouldn't get your cool guitar playing that's, to some degree magical and enchanting, but maybe he'd still be alive. Oh, maybe it's just me who thinks that's better. OnlyFans, sharing sex in the online world, in the virtual reality. You may think that VR is something to do with goggles. I got news for you. The term VR meant very different and we'll say much simpler things in the past. It didn't mean a 3D rendering of anything. Uh, Virtual reality was what all online activity used to be called. All of it. It I don't know what else to tell you. Yeah, they keep changing the definition of virtual reality so they can continue to chase that carrot if you want, or you can realize virtual reality is a psyop. But OnlyFans just connects a real world event that's supposed to be private and about the quality of your relationship with somebody and spreads it out, reduces it and spreads it out to the whole world, potentially. That's not better, right? And the thing is, the platforms need you to make the platform impact more real. It needs more reality. And to a materialist, they just believe more is better and all is good. When you have everybody doing the thing that they're supposed to do on their platform or whatever, that's a good thing. All automatic. These are just universalists. That's all. Oh, they're not using the Bible for their universalism. Okay, but it's still just universalism. And this is what happens when materialists do universalism. That's what it looks like. To them, the good is just everybody together in agreement. Propositional agreement, to be fair, because we're stuck in the age of gnosis, where knowledge is the highest value and knowledge is merely a set of propositions. Fundamentalism indeed. Fundamentalism isn't about being able to change your mind. That goes along with it. It's a side effect from preferring propositions over observations of the world or the enchanted world or being in the enchanted world or understanding the enchanted world. That's what fundamentalism is. The symptom of not changing your mind is a symptom of something. It's not an incorrect label, but maybe your definition is just symptomatic and not causal. When you pay too much attention to propositions, when you value them too highly, that is the cause of not being able to change your mind very easily. It's not the only cause of that, by the way, but it is certainly the biggest one right now. And the thing is, we're stuck in these distractions towards the things that are far away from us. It's bad enough to distract yourself with the video game on your phone where you build farms or match diamonds or whatever craziness. And there's nothing wrong with a little entertainment now and then. But now our distraction is far away. It's online, it's across the world. It's the things that are beneath us. Look at those homeless people. It's the things that are above us. Look at these politicians and all the bad things they're doing, or the wrong decisions they're making, or the things they should be doing that they're not, or the things that they are doing that they shouldn't. And these are distractions. You're not going to affect any of that ever anyway. I don't know why you're paying attention to it. Because this causes us to focus away from the things where we have the most control. That's not better. And the thing is, we're living in this world, and you should have noticed this last year. Maybe you didn't. It's idiots fighting idiots and calling it their win and victory. And because they're slightly smarter than the other low IQ individual. I don't particularly like IQ, but also certainly they're idiots on both sides. And then they claim the victory, and that's the excuse that you should listen to them more because they're right about something. 3-year-olds are right about things all the time by accident too. I don't listen to them about world affairs or journalistic whatever or politics or philosophy or science or anything. I also don't denigrate the fact that maybe they made a correct statement about something. That is always something to be lauded in some fashion. But the slightly smarter idiot is still an idiot and should not be listened to. That's the issue. Everyone is playing the ontology game, the game of what things go into what categories, the science categorization game. And the thing is, anyone can name things because we have access to the language, but only a few can name them properly. And none of those people are you, almost certainly. Just in case you were like getting ahead of yourself there, right? And do you know the difference between people who are naming things properly and people who are not? We'll try to cover that later. It's easy to get something right, but that doesn't mean you didn't just get lucky. It's easy to name something in a way that other people will resonate with that name, but that doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it good. It doesn't make it true. It just means you use a proposition to find common ground. Age of Gnosis, indeed. What we see of the world is very limited. It's not only limited by our own personal private perspective, which we can't get out of by definition, but it is also limited by our cognition. What we see of a business is the customer side and the public side, but not the money flow side. It's nice to speculate about AI's business prospects, but mostly impossible to get this correct. I have seen a number of videos criticizing the AI loop and saying whether or not OpenAI could ever possibly pay their bills. I'm not actually necessarily in disagreement. However, the autists doing these videos are failing to understand certain things. The AI play has very little to do with how much they can charge individuals for their service. That's not their game. I hate to break it to you, but actually, there's almost no money in send in having consumers buy your products. Groceries are a low margin business. Everybody needs groceries. Why are they a low margin business? They should be high demand. Well, A, we have way more supply in the United States than we have demand. So even if you're using a supply demand model, you're on the wrong side of it. B, a lot of people do things for reasons you don't understand. If somebody is farming or ranching or building infrastructure, they're constructing houses or whatever, they're not doing that for their own personal gain entirely. On a farm, you can grow way more food than your family can eat. It's not that hard. Not in the United States, especially not in the breadbasket of the world. So you're doing it to hold up the world. And in many cases, they don't hold up themselves as much as they should. Like they don't fight for higher prices. They're happy to make enough. And you're worried about the corporate types. I wonder how much of the economy is people who have opted not to make billions of dollars or even to try to increase how much they make by a ridiculous percentage. I don't see anybody talking about that. So I guess I'll mention it. We don't see the businesses. The AI play is in selling data, particularly search data. In other words, all the AI companies are trying to do is steal Google's business. That's it. It's no more complicated than that. There's some other components, but actually, everyone's just trying to be Google in terms of who controls the advertiser dollars. Why? Because advertising dollars are huge. And $20 a month subscriptions, $100 a month subscriptions, $500 a month subscriptions are nothing, even aggregated across a few million people compared to advertising dollars. Sorry, guys, it's just not that much money. So if that's the math you're doing, and fair enough, that's the math you understand and have access to, you're a low IQ moron. You don't understand the viability of AI. Having said that, no, I don't think OpenAI has a chance in hell. Different reasons, but that's what's going on. And it's a very long game. And Amazon and Jeff Bezos's ridiculous, reprehensible, I'm going to destroy retail and take over business model that has a very long time frame, which is not working, by the way. His predictions have been reliably wrong for like 30 years. That kind of enabled other companies to play that long game where we're going to take losses forever until we gain market. And then we're going to jack up prices, which Amazon has already done, by the way, a number of years ago now. And what else do we see? What else is going on? Well, yeah, there's been a weaponization of the media or media as such that continues in light of the fall of the Fourth Estate in particular. But that's a factor in the world. You're not going to live in a world where no one has control over the message. That's not possible. Then you don't have a message. Right? Things in the world need to be controlled because things are dangerous in the world. Period. And the real problem is partly because of the internet, but it's not really the internet's fault. It's just an enablement. We can't mediate the media, any kind of media, with a hierarchy anymore. That's been the problem that we've been suffering from. And you can complain about, some kid going in and showing that the daycares are all frauds all you want and say, "Oh, the media should have been doing that." Well, but there was no direct at the same time, you don't want the government telling the media what to do. Well, who is going to tell them what to prioritize? Because there's an technically infinite number of things you could report on. Why prioritize that? Now, I'm glad, I think his name is Nick Shirley, did what he did. That certainly is a good idea. He's revealing, a small fraction of the money laundering that's been going on. I'm telling you guys, in 20 years, this is going to be known as the age of money laundering. That's a good thing. Is it enough? Is it the right thing? Is it the most important thing? Those are questions I cannot answer. But it's good to know that those are questions and they're open questions. I like what he did. I support what he did. I hope, and I guess the feds did shut down all payments to daycares for all the states until they can prove there's no fraud. That's great. Let's drain the swamp. That's part of the swamp is states fraudulently stealing money and giving it to the Democratic Party, because if the Democrats didn't have a lot more money, they wouldn't ever get into office. And that's been true historically. It's only through the good graces of the Republican Party that any Democrat ever gets into office. Sorry. That's not universally true. Certainly the gerrymandering that the Democrats have been doing and that the Republicans allowed because they want some challenge. They don't want to tyrannize you, oddly enough. And that's why everyone's screaming for it, and it's not coming because they don't want to do it. That is the way it is, guys. Like, they allow the Democrats to have some form of control over some places because they're humble. The Democrats were always the bad guys. There's never been a time period in the United States where that hasn't been true. I'm sorry. Nothing I can do about the way it is. And the thing is, we rely on each other in ways we never realize. Imagine not seeing that a business needs its customers. I mean, I have a good friend of mine. I don't talk to him much anymore, but he's still on Facebook posting. And he regularly comes out with these companies poison their customers all the time. And I'm like, if companies poison their customers, they wouldn't have any customers, and then they wouldn't have any company. This obviously doesn't make any sense and can't be true. I don't know why you're saying that. It's a little weird. But that's the world we're living in. Imagine you don't realize that your computer was built by thousands of people you'll never meet. There's a big, long supply chain there. Most of them are not in the United States. You'll never meet those people. How many people did it take not to assemble your computer, but to assemble all the parts that go into your computer? It may not be a different 1,000 people for everybody, or 2,000 or 10,000, I don't know. But it's a lot of people. And what did they sacrifice to make sure that the capacitors in your computer actually existed to be put in your computer? Imagine not realizing that your electricity being on and available to you, even if it goes down, is the sum total of tens of thousands of people specialized in a small part of a very large system. What kind of world would we live in if we didn't understand and appreciate and be grateful for those people doing these things that make us comfortable? Don't even get me started on the number of people required to make the internet work as smoothly as it. This is real time. There's a small delay. Don't get me started on real time in computers. I agree, there's no such thing as real time in computers. I get it. Also, have to use the vernacular that I got because people won't understand me if I get super technical. This is pretty close to happening in real time for you. That's pretty freaking amazing. And I actually do understand at a bit level how hard that is. It's unbelievably difficult. It might as well be a miracle that I can do this and do it so easily. StreamYard, man, you just click a button. Like, it's pathetically simple. Now, making it that easy, dropping the barrier to entry, might not have been the best idea in the world. But I can still be grateful for the fact that this is available for me to give to you free of charge, by the way. Although you can donate if you feel like it. The link should be in the description. Um, I, I appreciate the fact that I can do that. And I'm not necessarily trying to sell you something, although if you don't have a Muppet mug, you might want to get one to remind yourself so that you can consider. And what if we live in a world, which again, this should have become clear in the past year, where we cannot tell scale, which means we miss that self-similar fractal pattern of reality. What if people didn't become bad when they got a bigger audience? They were always bad and you missed it. What if becoming the CEO of a corporation didn't corrupt somebody? What if they were always corrupt and they used that corruption to climb the ladder? And then when they were at the top, as a shining beacon, it became clear they were the bad guy. And maybe it wasn't so clear before when they were lower in the hierarchy and not all alone. We don't consider these things. What if the Democrats were always the bad guys? Because they definitely were. It's not that hard to. We have the historical information on that. It's not magic. And the thing is, can you tell a genius from a madman? And no, they aren't the same thing. And no, there isn't a little madness in genius. A genius may have a mad idea, but that does not mean they have madness. Those are different things. People suck at language, particularly the English language, which is the hardest language to learn. And it's important that they're different things. It's important that we don't conflate things that aren't the same. And we're suffering from the age of gnosis, where the highest value is knowledge, and knowledge is just propositions. But the problem of, does it matter if things last? That things like the internet, although all technology creates, this high speed experiment that we're in, and we can ignore the does it last if we just stay stuck in the novelty. Oh, this group sprang up and it died out, but there's a new group. Oh, well, there's a community. Groups are not communities. Groups form all the time. And groups can last quite a while without ever becoming communities. Almost no groups become communities. Communities need an intent, a common aim behind them. I'm not just saying that. I also wrote a book about it, which is available. You can buy the book, at least in the US. I'm working on the UK. And Europe will come. We're working on it. We had to get one thing done first, and then we can do 2 and 3 things. And the thing I think that people don't realize, and again, you should have realized this after this past year, and you're going to see more of it coming up, is it's possible to vote for chaos as such and not any particular outcome. There are a lot of people that would rather stand on the ashes of civilization, so long as they're standing on the ashes, than climb up to the top of a civilization. They'd rather drag everything underneath them than lift a finger to get better. My mother used to tell me, she said, it's not that some of these, lifelong criminals or whatever want a TV like yours. It's that they want your TV. In other words, they want to deprive you of the thing. They don't necessarily want that thing. They just don't want you to have it. There are lots of people like that, and it doesn't take very many of them, if allowed to run unchecked, to take the whole thing down. It's easier to destroy than to create, by an order of magnitude at least, possibly more. And the thing is, welcome to hell. Not picking sides means you choose chaos over possible progress. You can see any direction or make a case for any type of progress in chaos. That's easy because you're always progressing towards something, and you can always put a good spin on that. You can always say, oh, well, we had to get rid of that so we can make room for this. It's like, but what if you got rid of that and you didn't make room for anything and you didn't build anything? That's not good. So the fact that you had to get rid of something really doesn't tell me much other than you're destructive, and that's not a plus. And all of this is true, especially if you ignore the time scale. But the thing is, time and costs matter. This is why the eschaton is important. This is why the end times are important. This is why the end matters. Because you can't judge progress at all in any meaningful fashion without having an end goal, a telos, if you will. It can't be done technically. It's a non-starter. When we don't state that up front, when we're not clear about that, anything looks good, or anything can be made to look good very easily by a 3-year-old. This is not a plus. So what does this mean? I mean, we do need to censor people. We need to censor books. We need to censor speech. We need to censor property. No sane, reasonable person that can be allowed in polite society believes that a factory polluting a river shouldn't have their business shut down and their land taken away from them, potentially. No one. That's insane. We have always done that. Oh, but that's a business. It's different. No, it's specifically not different. Not in the United States. Corporations are people for that reason. But by the way, before you get off on it, if you read the actual ruling, the judges basically said, hey, if corporations aren't people, the law doesn't apply to them. That is correct. All the laws in the United States only apply to people. If you want to be able to regulate corporations and take them to court, they have to be people. And they also have to be able to have a political voice. Yes. Otherwise, you would be judging them in a legal system without representation. Obviously, that's a no-no. Sorry. Just the way it is. Don't know what to tell you. It's not that hard. It's not a bad thing. But it is a good and necessary thing. Oh. And we do need to censor people. We need to know who's putting up or needs to shut up. And we need to shut them up. That's all. And that's not a bad start. That would be a good first swing. And sure, you can't control that. But what you can do for yourself is you can control who you listen to, who you engage with, who you spend your time, energy, and attention on. What do we need to focus on in the new year? Discernment. The most important thing to realize are all of those things that you are the worst at noticing. What do you have zero discernment of? And who does have discernment of those things that you cannot discern very well? Maybe listen to them about those things. Maybe you know enough plumbing to be dangerous. You should still call up somebody who knows more about plumbing than you before diving in. Maybe you know something about programming or AI vibe coding or whatever. Probably better to consult somebody who has more experience than you do first. It matters a lot. Do you know what you're good at and what you're bad at? What things you can and can't discern? Maybe there's a thing that pops up over and over again and it always surprises you. Maybe find somebody who understands that better than you do. Hmm. And listen to them on those things, not yourself, which requires a degree of humility, which I do understand is in short supply. But if the only thing holding you back is your own humility, well, that's something you have the most control over is yourself. And maybe you don't have much control over yourself, but you will always have more control over yourself than you have over all the things that aren't yourself. That's good to know. And in fact, this discernment allows for interesting things. It allows you to judge others by who they spend their time, energy, and attention on as well. Now, that doesn't mean you have to condemn somebody for listening to your favorite enemy, but it's good to know how much time they spend listening to your favorite enemy, whoever that may be. Maybe it's the lamestream media. Okay. At least you know where they stand. And the thing is, you can't just go by people's purported ideas. You have to look at where they nourish themselves. You have to look at who they promote, what voices they promote, whether they listen to them or not, because that happens a lot. Oh, I really like this guy. I don't listen to him, but really. And maybe more important, who they fail to promote. Well, you're giving this guy air, but you're not giving these people air. What's up with that? Tells you a lot about that person. May not tell you anything about who they fail to promote, obviously, and it may not tell you anything about who they promote. People are really good at that. Promoting somebody using, really abstract terms like, "Oh, this guy's a genius. Oh, this guy really knows psychology. Oh, this guy's so smart." That's all meaningless drivel. What is it that you expect me to get out of that engagement? That way I can judge. If I'm not getting that out of getting the thing you claimed out of the engagement, maybe it's not for me. Doesn't mean they're bad people, doesn't mean it was wrong for them, for somebody to point you in their direction, and it doesn't mean any of that. But it definitely means that you shouldn't engage with them, and that's enough. Like, that's enough of an improvement. Now, it may also mean that it's part of a psyop, or that this person isn't what the other person claimed. Maybe the other person's to blame for that. I don't know. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you can just disengage because you're not getting out of it what was promised. Fair enough. That's super helpful. You don't have to have a negative affect about any of that. You don't have to be angry or go after anybody or judge anybody. You can judge yourself. Oh, I don't understand this message, or I can't get this message, or I don't see this thing. Let me go look at something where I do see the thing. And it's important to know who people promote, who they fail to promote, and how they nourish themselves. This is part of discernment. Observation tells all, irrespective of logic. Don't get caught up in the logic. The logic will tell you your observation is bad, and your observation is the only thing that matters. You can use logic from your observation to derive not anger towards the person who made the bad recommendation, or anger towards the person that you're not getting something from. You can just use that logic to come to the conclusion that that engagement isn't right for you and your time is better spent elsewhere. That's all. And naturally, logic can enhance by acting as a validation pretty much anything, right? But simple observation might prove more right over time in particular than a logical consistency that someone came up to make you feel better about something that just happened, or something that you feel you didn't have an explanation for, or something you feel you didn't understand at all. There are hundreds of explanations and descriptions that will make you feel better, and they can conflict, and they can all be about the same topic and all be in conflict with one another, and all any one of those could make you feel better. This isn't interesting. It's just human psychology at some layer. It's how people are. Not everybody. Some people don't care about explanations. They're a lot happier, by the way, according to psychology, ironically enough. And that's because things unfold in time, not just in the world. The objective world doesn't have time in it. Time is not a factor in the objective world. Objective material reality cannot afford time, because then objects would change and then it wouldn't be objective, at least according to the scientific understanding of objective. And that would ruin all their science. And then they would be sad science people. Personally, I hope they're sad all the time. I don't like them anymore, but different live stream. And this naturally leads us into the question of how do we discern? Observe. Listen to the words and how they are used. Believe people when they tell you horrible things or bad things about themselves. Believe them. Don't believe their joviality at saying it, because it might just be a joviality at fooling you. Ha ha ha, I'm going to tell you the truth and you won't believe me because you want to believe the best about me. Ha ha ha. Oh, a lot of people are doing that. A lot more than you think. Look at the results of their actions, or the lack of results at their actions. If you've got a group that's been going for 6, 7, 8 years and they ain't got a website together, I don't know what's going on. They're not a community. They can't even get together a website. I don't know, man. It's pretty sad. How many different topics are they talking about at once? Are they unified, or are they just a bunch of people who like to argue? Because liking to argue is something that a lot more people have in common than any particular topic. So it's a tell. Oh, look, they're talking about 17 things at once. They're using 6 different frames. Some people care about the politics, and some people care about theology, and some people care about the economics of the situation. Okay. Doesn't sound like you're much of a group then, now does it? Are they backing up claims with observations? Or are they just giving you a logical arguments? Lots of arguments are logical and wrong. Most arguments are wrong. Most logical chains are wrong. They're not logically inconsistent because logic can't determine right and wrong. It might help you validate right and wrong, but they can't determine them. Logic, reason, rationality are very limited, flat, discrete tools. They're linear connections. They're unable to hold the world together, but they're great for validation. Are the claims being backed up by experience? Oh, as someone who lived in an apartment in New York City, I know all about the 2008 housing crisis because I worked at a bank. Okay. I went to court over it. And did a bunch of legal research on my own. I don't know. I'm going to go with my experience over your whatever fantasy, I guess is the best word for it. Or are people just stringing things together soothingly? Just stringing things together calms people down. That's the word salad effect. Brene Brown is excellent at this, a true master of it. I will do, I always go back and forth. She's got a TED Talk, and I think I'm gonna do a video on it because maybe I'll do that for next week. I have a video for next week, by the way. I know I didn't get one out this week, but I have a couple shorts coming too, and yeah, it's gonna things will ramp up. I was sick, so I guess everybody's gotten the plague. So my plague was so minor that I'm fine with not getting a video out because of the plague. Some of my friends up north have been in bed for 5 days. It's like, well, I didn't have that problem. I thought the illness was bad, but I guess my streak of any bad illness I have to such a tiny degree compared to everybody else that I'm just grateful. Yay. And the thing is, another point of discernment for you, if someone is telling you that they think their highest value is changed, they're like, "Oh, the good thing about me is that, I'm not a fundamentalist. I can change my mind." It's like, "Okay, maybe that's good." I mean, I only change my mind under certain very specific conditions, but so changing your mind is good. I mean, Taleb talks about, yeah, you should change your mind and be able to update your position based on new information. Absolutely. Taleb is right about that. But people that just think the highest value is change and that, oh, we change our minds and therefore we're better than other people. That's a highest value thing, right? They don't want grounding because grounding judges them and finds them lacking, by the way, just in case I have to add that in. It finds them lacking and they don't like judgment. They also have no place to stand, which means they can't justify and validate their beliefs. And it also means that they are never going to build anything. They're going to stay stuck in novelty land forever because novelty is infinite. But building something is difficult and rare. And not everybody can build things, but everybody can contribute in some way to building things. But you have to be willing to do that. What else can help us with discernment? Sequence. Sequence helps. Logic helps too, but it will not work without other things like sequence. Logic without sequence, which a lot of people are using, right? They'll start in the middle of a story and give you a logical progression. And it's like, well, yeah, but that's not the right sequence because these other things happen first, or maybe they just do the logic out of sequence. And so, well, this is connected to this. Yeah, but that thing happened first. So the connection's kind of reversed there. That might make a big difference to your logic because logic is linear and discrete. So it does matter direction in logic. But the only thing that matters is not direction, certainly. A lot more than that. Orientation is the big deal. And logic and sequence don't work without telos. Pragmatism is important because all things work in your imagination. Action is important. You can imagine a bunch of things you can't take action on. You can imagine you can fly without a plane, without a helicopter, without a glider, with just a cape, but you can't actually do that. So the action says the fact that you can work it out logically in your head is wrong. And when you don't sequence things correctly from wherever they come from to whatever you make them in your imagination to your action, then you get confused about what reality is. Can't know reality without action. And that can help correct your logic. A lot of people will talk about axioms. I talk about axioms. They're very important. Axioms can only be rationalized by results, by the telos, by the end, by the conclusion, not before the results, and not in spite of the results, and not without the results. So it's not that axioms are things that can't be rationalized. It's that axioms are things that are rationalized in the end analysis. Maybe you don't find that helpful, but thought doesn't cut it because that's in the imaginal realm. Action is what gives you the discernment to understand whether or not an axiom is, we'll call it, viable and correct over time, because that's what matters. And logic can help you to determine that. But logic and the conclusions of logic depend almost entirely on the axiomatic starting points. It's not the only thing it depends on, but boy, single biggest factor. The thing is, what you'll find once you get proper discernment is that the variation in the world across pretty much everything, but particularly in people, is large. It's very large. It's larger than you think. It's so large that hierarchy is the only way to resolve the issues that we see in the world, that we experience in the world, that are in the world, that were in the world and will be in the world, irrespective of our existence. They're independent of us, which means we have a limited ability to interact with them, and perhaps a zero ability to change them. You are not going to eliminate grief from the world. That's not going to happen. It's a perennial issue. It's a perennial pattern. It's not going away. You're not going to eliminate death from the world. It's a perennial pattern, and it's an important one. Just the belief that we will die is super important to the world because it changes our actions significantly and differently over time. Oh, if you believe you're going to die, you're going to do this. No. At the point at which you realize you might die, and that point may never come for you because you could die suddenly, you may do that. You may also do a number of other things. Some people deny that they're ever going to die once they realize they're going to die. That happens all the time. That's written up in books, movies, TV shows. It's all over the place. You don't know what, because the variance in humans is so huge, you don't know what people are going to do when they have a realization or a belief in death, for example. But there's so many other things. You don't know how people are going to react to the pattern of grief. And you don't know how long they're going to stay there. And maybe they don't get through all 7 stages or whatever. It's issues like this that sort of highlight why the myth of the polymath is so important to understand as false. It's a false attempt at creating an archetype in the age of gnosis, where knowledge is the most important thing. It's important to understand people that see patterns and are therefore competent in a number of fields for whatever reason, with seemingly little effort, perhaps. But you don't get the ability to see patterns through education, whatever that psyop word means. I've talked about that before. It's super important. And in the end, it comes down to the problem of attention, as Jonathan Peugeot likes to mention. The things that you expose yourself to will impact you. Be careful what you expose yourself to, how long you expose yourself to it, and maybe never is the wrong answer for most things. Like maybe avoiding all the bad things or all the things you think are bad is a bad idea. But also, it might matter how you approach things and where you go back to when you're done exposing yourself to those things. It's not bad to know that OnlyFans exists and to understand a little bit about it, but it might be bad to go there every day. It might be bad to go there and then not come back to your place where you're grounded and safe and comfortable and where the world makes better sense to you. Because ultimately, nothing about OnlyFans makes sense. There's ways in which different people with very different motivations and very different goals, or maybe different motivations and the same goal, or maybe the same motivation and different goals, actually look as though they're conspiring together. But that doesn't mean much because the world is full of variation. And you need to go back to a consistent place where you know where you are, where you are no longer in domicile. And if you don't have a place like that, that is okay, but you should find one. Domicile definitely contributes to, if not outright causes, the meaning crisis. That inability to know where you are and where you belong and where within where you belong you do the most good. That's just a function of the loss of intimacy or the understanding of the quality of the relationships you are engaged in or not engaged in. What quality relationship do you not have that you need to feel at home, to feel safe, to feel grounded, to feel and be better? Because hopefully, if you've watched at all, you realize we're all about being better because the world needs you. And what does the world need from you? The world just needs you to be better. That's all. And how do you make the world better? Well, guess what? You're part of the world. You can make it better just by being better. You can focus on the things closest to you, local to you, and be better. And the world gets better automatically. It's a magic trick. And now for some water and some comments. I am still fighting off the remnants of this nasty cold, although now I'm not sleeping 2 hours in the afternoon. Ixnat, being good at chess doesn't lead to being good at anything else. Yeah, exactly. That's true. It doesn't exapt. John Vervaeke talks about exaptation all the time. It's like, well, maybe for some things that's limited. Really, what you're talking about is patterns. Sally Joe, get the book, give it to your enemies. Indeed. Yes. Give the book to your enemies. Hello, Denise. Good to see you. Happy New Year. Yes. Happy New Year, Sally. Or Happy New Yar, as it were. God bless the legions that keep the lights on. I know, huh? It's like so. I was talking to my neighbor. My neighbor came over the other day. He wanted to put he wanted to move his mailbox. My neighbor's driveway is on my property. Technically, he has that right of way. They have like a 50-foot right of way. I'm like, really, dude, 50 feet? Come on, do we need this? Actually, we need it because the other neighbors, half the other neighbor's driveway is also on my property. It's very funny. They're way behind my house too, like way back. It's like a 2-hour tour to get down their driveways. Um, so my neighbor shows up. I haven't talked to him forever, which is my bad, totally. He's invited me over. Just walk down the driveway anytime. Ignore the don't trespass signs. I'm like, thanks, dude. The don't trespass signs on my property. He doesn't have any on his fence, which is the beginning of his property. Very funny. Anyway, thanks. I'll try not to trespass on my own property. He comes over and he wants to move his mailbox, and he's like, "Well, I just want to check with you first." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, well, this won't be a problem, but let me look. Maybe I can give you some ideas." And we talked it over, and I gave him a few good ideas, and uh, it was wonderful. And he told me this story. He said, "Oh yeah, I love Fairfield Electric, which is our electric co-op here." He says, the last place that I lived, at one town away, actually next town over, he said, I lived in this little cul-de-sac in a development, and half the development had Fairfield, and the other half of the development was stuck on Duke Energy. And then whenever we lose power, Fairfield would be back on in like an hour, and Duke would take 3 days. And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, And I like every time I deal with my electric co-op, like it's amazing. It's amazing, amazing. It's like, oh well, humanity is awesome, clearly, because these people are all we didn't even have a power outage. A tree get hit by lightning. Apparently, according to my neighbor, that was a tornado. Okay. Yeah, we watched a tornado march across the yards. I'm like, oh, interesting. Why were you out on your porch in a tornado? But whatever. You take your chances. I'll take mine. Um, a tree gets split by lightning, lands on the power line. Somehow the power lines don't snap. I don't even lose electricity. Nothing happens. Snaps the pole. Neither the pole nor the tree, although the tree brushed my window here right in front of me. Amazingly. Didn't break the window, just brushed it. I was like, what? And the pole didn't hit the house, even though it's 6 feet from the house. Didn't hit the house. Managed to fall in a way that didn't hit the house. I'm like, okay, this is a miracle. So the power's down. This guy, I call them to say, hey guys, power lines are down. There's a tree on top of it. I can't get to my chainsaws. You're gonna have to bring chainsaws. And then put a new pole in. And they come by, and the guy's like the vice president of engineering for the co-op. And he's telling me like, oh yeah, I brought my work clothes in case the guys needed help. I figured I could just go out and do some evals for them. And I'm like, what? And the thing was, they came the day I called them, and they were like, well, you're not out of power. Do we need to do this today? And I'm like, no, bro. Like, take your time. Like, don't rush for me. But they gave me the option. I'm like, you guys are insane. This is nuts. And they came out, and they eventually fixed it all. And they're just like wonderful people. And they keep my lights on. So, yeah, Sally, God bless the legions that keep the lights on and the internet running. Ixon, positive judgments are still judgments. Here's a good point, Ixon. A lot of people don't mind positive judgments, but boy, they don't like the negative ones. And they always blame the judge and the fact that the judgment itself exists, or the mechanism of judgment exists. And it's like, I don't know, bro, you're living in a cognitive dissonance world. Ixon, need for validation equals lack of trust. Yeah, well, you don't have grounding. You need constant validation without grounding. What do you think things like woke are? That's why woke isn't going away. It's just morphing. It's the same pattern. It's not gonna look the same, right? But it's gonna be exactly the same. Joey, hey, good to see you, Joey. It's not flying. It's falling with style. It could be. That could happen. Joey, you can't. Exposing yourself to things is what got Pee Wee Herman in trouble. Well, that's true. I heard some wonderful heresy today, Joey. It's amazing. But it's that trollish aspect of you that attracted such trouble to begin with. Beyond God, the difference between woke and rights is sinister. I don't know why those two things would be juxtaposed at all, but I suppose you can false dichotomy your way into anything. False dichotomy is another good way to understand that people you're listening to are retarded. I think that we underestimate the ease of which and the degree to which you can notice people who are, irrespective of how many IQ points they have, uh, either allegedly or in actuality, and how many PhDs they have or whatever, or how eloquent they are with their language. It's really easy to know when people have a low ability cognitively. If they're constantly just pitting two things against each other, they're binary thinkers. They're stuck in a dichotomy. They'll love oppositional processing or opponent processing or whatever. They'll love opposition. They'll frame everything as opposition because in a binary world, everything is opposition. Just that in the world we live in, everything is not opposition. Those same people, oddly enough, seem to think that wealth or fame or power are just like objects in the world, that if the other people that have them didn't have them, that then they'd be up for grabs and maybe those people could get them or something. And that just doesn't work. They're all communists. Uh, I don't I don't think that's a coincidence. I think communism is a 3 or 4 year old's idea of politics. And that's because they regularly quote Das Kapital without having read it. And it's not that hard to figure out. It's not hard to figure out, if you became a Nazi even for a minute, your philosophy's terrible. If you died alone of syphilis, your philosophy of life is awful. Um, if you never built anything and didn't like have a family and carry on a legacy, if your philosophy doesn't account for children, famously only ever used against Ayn Rand, but also true of everyone past Plato and Aristotle, um, it's not a philosophy. It's not it's not anything. It's just gibberish at the end of the day. Oh, there's some good points in there. There's good points in everything. Who cares? Not interested. I don't want good points. I'm not here for the novelty. I need something that will last. We all do. We all long for that. Sinister is a left joke, if you say so. I think the left is a joke, and that's easier. Joey, you can't you can't tease a heresy you heard about today and not share it with the class. Haha, I can. It's my stream. Let's just say revisionist history on how so-called corners of the internet, because only one person ever coined that term, by the way, were fascinating, just fascinating to me. Uh, and honestly, like I told this story earlier on the Discord. Years ago, before the internet, before the web, and the internet was around, but nobody was on it. Uh, I was on a bulletin board system, a big one. It was a chat. It was a live chat, text chat, bulletin board system. Pretty amazing. Went from 4 to 8 to 16 to 32 to 64 lines, using custom hardware. Major BBS, cool stuff. This bulletin board system, there were a bunch of us on it. We're all in the Boston area, pretty much. There were a few people who weren't from Massachusetts or whatever, but the bulletin board system, anybody can call in, just gonna pay the long distance charges. Somebody was talking to one of our mutual friends, decided that she had said something that indicated suicidal thoughts. And because she was going to Boston University at the time and her roommate had actually been, tried to commit suicide and almost succeeded, they grabbed her and threw her in a mental institution for, quote, 3 days, which turned into 5 because it was the weekend. And really, that law only counts on whether or not that was true, even at the time. I don't remember. This person had never even physically met this other person and was able to pick up the phone and get them committed to an insane asylum. Now, if you happen to watch Luke Thompson's latest video, which I don't recommend you do, within the first probably 15 or 10 minutes, it's pretty clear that he's got mental issues, very serious ones. It's abundantly clear. You can make excuses for it, but it's pretty clear. Somebody should do something about that. It's not good for him or the people that watch him. And in a sufficiently large group, there's always a lol cow. There's always an insane person. There's always a criminal or two. And some groups have many criminals. Some groups have many liars. Some groups attract liars. Some groups attract rebels. Some groups attract violent characters. The Hells Angels are famous for this. And not all Hells Angels chapters are violent at all. But on average, there's way more violent Hells Angels people than there are violent VFW people. I don't know what to tell you. There's definitely a there. Birds of a feather flock together and all that. You should beware of revisionist history. The Daryl Coopers of the world, who apparently never read a history book on World War II once, just one. They're not good. Yeah, maybe he did his research on Jim Jones, as he's an expert there. Probably sounded like it to me. And I know a little bit about Jim Jones. Like I didn't ever do a deep dive because it's horrifying, but also did study that a little bit. Very interesting story. Daryl Cooper has that right. Does that mean he knows anything about Churchill? No, he doesn't know anything about Churchill. Clearly. Takes 2 seconds to figure that out. Why would you listen to him about Churchill? He's clearly wrong. Revisionist history. Guy's a little crazy. He's a little provocative for no reason. Why are you being a provocateur? Is that good? I'm not saying no one should ever be a provocateur, but is it you? Are you good at it? Are you provoking something good? I have a rule that I use called no good can come from it. I consider an action and I go, can any good come from this? And if the answer is no, then I don't do it. That's all. It's not hard. Maybe I really want to stick it to that person, or maybe I really want to make a point, or maybe I want to be heard by a lot of people because it might be important to some of those people. Or maybe no good can come from it anyway. And I can realize that when I ask myself the question before I do the thing. It's a lot of steps. Make sure you don't skip any. A lot of people skip steps too. And that's a good tell for people you shouldn't listen to. Ixnon, Young God, Sinister as opposed to Dexter. Yeah, well, there we go. Someone gets it, I guess. Sally Joe M. Cooper. No conception of production. That is true. So if no production exists, stealing is all there is. Yeah, it's a zero-sum game. Life is obviously not a zero-sum game. Somebody built a skyscraper. It's not that hard to figure out, is it? Sally Joe, and thus knowing we must beware the pathetic little people who know neither victory nor defeat. I had to add a letter in there, Sally. Sorry. Yon God, this is a Luke Thompson reference. Well, lovely. Referring to Luke Thompson probably makes you almost as crazy as him. I don't know what else to tell you. I have a long history with Luke. I don't necessarily dislike him. Also seriously mentally ill. Very clearly. Like, wow, has he gotten worse since I met him in person? A lot worse. And that's sad. That's sad because no one's going to do anything about it. They're all going to get worse together. Good job, guys. I love these people too, like total revisionist history. Well, I've only been in this group 5 months, but I think what this group is about. And I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Like, how can you form that sentence? I don't understand. I'm not saying he shouldn't say his point of view on what the group's about, but this trick of saying things like, well, you know, I I may not know what I'm talking about, but, or, well, I don't mean to insult you, but, like, that's just a verbal trick, right? You're juxtaposing the propositions over the actions you're about to take or the impact of other propositions to buffer them against the reality of what you're doing, against the impact of your action. Makes you kind of a scumbag. That's all. It's not hard. I'm not saying there's never a cause to couch something to put people at ease. There is. But people that do that without any prompting, without any prior engagement, like that's their first move. Well, I don't know much about particle physics, but if that's not a valid move. Don't listen to these people. Tell them off immediately. And immediately matters. I have a whole video about that. That was my last big video release with the doc animation. Um, these things are super important. We need discernment going forward because things are going to get more chaotic, not less. Sorry, guys. And in more chaos, you're going to see more hope. You're going to see more Charlie Kirk moments. Yeah, well, the aftermath of Charlie Kirk has been a flat pack disaster for everybody. Ooh, the right's fighting the right. So when you say the right, you seem to be referring to a bunch of people who were actually voting Democrat last week. And you think they're now the right because they're no longer voting Democrat? That's not how that works. The political frame is absolute poison to any form of reasonable, accurate description or understanding or ability to discern. Like, it's just poison. It's a binary. Sally Joe, no, it was me poorly quoting fancy literature. Well, poorly quoting is better than not quoting at all, I guess. All right, look. um, man, that cold is still here. But if you would like to join and talk about last year, what you think is going to happen this year, ask any questions about my little rant there that I kind of pulled together at the last minute. Feel free to jump in. I shall post and possibly even pin, although it's very hard to do because the morons that wrote the interface in Google are a bunch of morons. Feel free to jump in and relieve me of talking duty, at least to some degree. That is, if you have something to say. If you just want to jump in to be seen, that's not the best. I got accused of being an attention hound, which but by somebody who, at least used to, I don't know if he still does, goes on live streams playing Minecraft, waiting for people to show up, which I just like, I mean, it was just too much, right? It was overwhelmed. Like, really? That's your psychologically project much. Like, and what good are psychology degrees when people who get them do things like that? Unironically. It's it's always cracks me up. I'm always like, okay, bro. Yeah, that's definitely not weird or anything. And Joey, you're either a binary thinker or you're not. Exactly, Joey. Anything can be placed in a binary. And that's why people get fooled because they think they can understand the world. And most people, in order to understand the world, are going to have to flatten it to a binary. Of course, they won't understand the world, but they don't know that. They're a little stupid. Okay, they're a lot stupid. Sally Joe. Okay, with more effort, it was Theodore Roosevelt and supposed to be those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. Well, I knew it was nor defeat, but I couldn't remember the rest of it any better. Young God. At Joey A. Oh, well, Joey's pretty funny. So Joey's pretty awesome. I learned a lot from Joey. I'm grateful to have met him. I do need to get back out to California and spend more time with Joey in person. But I haven't been able to do that because, man, we traveled a lot last year. We went to Las Vegas, Nevada. We went to Arizona and slept in a freaking box canyon, which is about the coolest thing that anybody could ever possibly do. Um, and we went to South Dakota. We stopped off in Pennsylvania and made it to the Cape. We go to the Cape every year. And we went to Ireland. So 3 huge, huge trips, huge trips. And Ireland was great. We got to a wedding. We went to Cork. We got to see the propagandization of the Irish through the BBC, and then the BBC blew up and admitted that they're a bunch of frauds who just lie to people by totally rewriting representations of reality whenever they can, and they seem okay with that. And I would be okay with that too if they weren't the bad guys, but they seem to be the bad guys. Bad guys are usually unapologetic. That's a good way to know who the bad guys are. Like if you point out to them that they've done something wrong and they can't at least manage an apology, the odds that they're bad go pretty close to 100%. I mean, not 100% because the world is full of variation, but like 99.9% of the time. And the reason why is because they can't stray away from their mistakes. They can't get better. They can't do the one thing, the mantra of this channel. They can't be better. But the world needs them, just as the world needs you to be better. The world can't get better if you don't get better. That's all. It's not hard. Ixon, Joey, there are 10 types of people in the world: those who understand binaries, those who don't, and those who didn't expect this joke to be in base 3. Oh, I haven't heard that modification. I think the real problem, though, Ixon, is that a lot of people just run into the ID10T error. And if you write that out, you'll understand what that is. Sally, but do they believe in straight lines or do they believe in a straight line? Do you believe in the existence of a straight line? Actually, really important. Your answer matters. You don't have to answer out loud, but you should think about that. But you shouldn't overthink about that because that's where most people get caught, right? We're living in this skeptical cynicism. Yes, I have a video on that. Skeptical cynicism of Socrates, or Socrates, as he's sometimes called. When we get too skeptical and cynical, we think everything is a trick or everything's a yoke. Oh, the yoke. Oh, I called you a bad name because it was yoke. It was just a yoke. Relax, man. Yeah, no, comedians can speak the truth. That's what that is. No, they can't. You're actually lying to yourself and others, which is bad. Don't do that. Yeah, we get lost in these little tropes. We don't even realize what we're mimicking anymore because we can't discern our mimicry from our originality because we don't know where we end and other things begin. Another wonderful gift from Joey, who, to be fair, got it from a comment that was on a video that we were in together with Pastor Vanderclay and Father Eric back in the day, which I arranged. Thank you very much. I've arranged a bunch of things. Very handy. I'm glad I'm not arranging them anymore. And I expect, perhaps not tomorrow, but maybe tomorrow, or maybe in several days. Damn. That a conversation's coming out on a very large channel that I have with somebody, and we'll see. We'll see how long it takes to come out. But it should be coming, and it should be great. I think you're all gonna appreciate and enjoy it. And if you've watched my live streams, there's gonna be some repeat. Hopefully, it won't be boring. We'll find out after it comes out and comments come in. Then my channel blows up and makes $1 billion a year. Aim high, fall far. That's my motto. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see when that comes out. I thought it might come out today or tomorrow, but no, no, probably not. Probably not Sunday. Maybe next Tuesday or Wednesday. We'll see. Hopefully, it'll be out before my next stream. But that is not under my control, and no one tells me anything, which is fine. And it'll be exciting when it comes out because it'll get exposure to a lot more of the work. Also, we are working on more things, not just the board game and the manners book, which is actually we made some progress on that. Well, the team made a lot more progress than I did. I mean, I got everything started, but they're taking it and running with it. Thanks, guys. Um, but I did do some contributions yesterday and a few today, actually. As things come to me, it's always useful to get drawn to things and then have that enhance whatever you're working on. Like today with listening to Luke's stream at actual 2x, because boy, you lose nothing. My goodness. Save time, but you don't lose anything. Contributed heavily to some of the things and the exemplifications and, the tips on discernment. All of that was in there. I didn't finish that conversation, but I'm pretty close to the end. It's always interesting to hear what's going on from the perspective of crazy people. It really gives you a high contrast, and contrast is how you see. So, you know, on God, does the world need more babies? Yes. And if the world does not, is eugenics good? No, eugenics is never good. This isn't that hard. Eugenics is scientifically precise, accurate, and correct, but it is not ethically good. It's ethically bad, wrong, and evil. That's just because you can, should you, right? Which is just a recapitulation of the is ought problem, which many people will tell you has been solved. And then when you listen to them, you realize they're really not very bright. Of course, it hasn't been solved, certainly not by them. This is really easy. I will give you the ultimate starting axiom from which all things, as far as I can tell, can be derived. You can just start with being is good, and all the logical derivation will lead you pretty much to the correct answer. You'll also probably reinvent 99% of Catholicism. Could be a coincidence or an accident or something. I don't know. But it's useful. And it served a purpose if you believe in evolution at all or the observation of evolution. Yeah, I mean, there's no such thing as good genetics. Genetics is an observation of the way. The origin of species is a justification for the ontology of biology. In other words, the categorization of plants and animals is justified by Darwin's book. That's why it's called the origin of species. I know the scientists are a little dumb and they think it's the origin of life and they confuse those two things because it is the battle of the two books. I have a whole live stream about the battle of the two books. It's out there. Engage with that and just think about that a little bit more closely and you'll figure it out real quick. Oh, no science can talk about good or evil. Jordan Peterson's been over this, right? You probably can scientifically find a way to mix anthrax and Ebola, but should you? Right. It is an ought. It's all the same issue. They don't like to admit that it's the same issue. They want to be smart about it. But also, it's not a smartness issue. It's a very simple, easy, good, bad issue. I don't know. Sally Joe, 2026 is a good year to look for ways to improve yourself and clean your room. That is true. But then the hall, your house, the streets, your shops, schools, gyms, parish, town, county, and so on. And yes, they are yours. That is true. Don't overwhelm people, though. More things. Yes. Well, more things is not better. First, figure out if you can even clean your room, or if you suck even at that and need to like start below. Would you like fries with that on the list? And then make yourself better from determining where you are. And if you don't know where you end and other things begin, you don't know where you are. You don't know what you're part of and what you're not part of. So maybe start there and work your way out. Boundaries matter. Lines matter. Where you stand matters. Why Jonathan Joe stopped asking that question, I don't actually. I have a pretty good idea, but I have to ask him the next time I see him. Maybe I'll make it out to Symbolic World 2, which is apparently in Ohio of all places. But we'll see. It's not looking great. This year is not starting out wonderful because we went on 3 big trips last year and money's kind of tight. But we'll see. We'll see what gifts we are granted in this new year. Joey, classic beingist biased. Exactly. You aren't accounting for those who have never been. Well, actually, you can if you start from the axiom, but existitarianism. Existitarianism confirmed. That is true. Ixnat, you have to start where you are. Well, you have to know what's you and what's not, and then you can start where you are. If you can't determine where you are, if you don't know what you are and where you are in relation to your boundaries, then you can figure out where you are in relation to other things. And that really is the issue. People really, they're not doing that. That's why they're stuck in relativism. That's why they're stuck in the binary frame. They desperately want to be able to understand the world through mere propositions. That's yay. I mean, if you're going to create a model that explains the world, you're kind of dumb. And so you're going to have to use a binary to explain all the complex things that are way bigger than you and that have a history longer than your life will be. It's kind of a big ask. I'd rather not have to understand the history of Ukraine, which I don't, in order to make statements about Ukraine like eating the country. It's not that hard to figure out. You don't need the history. But yeah, how many countries fire rockets at from within the country to other parts inside the country? What, like 2? Are those countries though? Oh, they're both at war now too. Weird. Huh. Nah, I don't think it's connected. It's totally random. Who could have seen that? Oh, never mind. I saw all that coming. Never mind. Don't mind me. 2014. I have a video on the significance of that particular year, and you should watch that live stream. It's good. A lot of good material. I hope more of the world engages with all of this wonderful material. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Yawn God. I just finished The Prisoner, by the way, before the new year rang in. So one episode of The Prisoner has number 6 defending the fact that he is number 6 and not number 12. Yes. However, the point at he is a free man. No. I don't understand why in that episode he plays their game and conforms. Hey, buddy. Well, I'm just going to tell you. I have watched The Prisoner many, many, many times, and one of my very brilliant friends introduced it to me when I was like 18 or 19 or whatever. And yeah, why didn't number 6 just say, I don't care what number you call me XYZ if you want? Well, he actually does something like that in the series, by the way. I think that in order to understand The Prisoner, you need to watch it at least 6 times and probably take notes. and you probably need other people to talk about it with. So fair enough. The Prisoner has a lot of themes in it. And again, look, you want some discernment. If somebody says they're a movie critic and they don't know The Prisoner, they're not a good movie critic. They will never be a good movie critic. Or TV show critic, same thing. A lot of movies and TV shows borrowed elements from probably the most innovative TV show of all time, which actually, no word of a lie, is The Prisoner by far. One of the big themes in The Prisoner, which should be 100% clear, by the way, is identity as such. And not just identity, but assigned identity and how that is determined. That is one of the core messages of the show. It is not by any means the only. The Prisoner is best understood as an integration of several issues, several sort of, you could think of them as philosophical, so-called philosophical disputes if you wanted to, right? But several issues of the perennial patterns that tie us together, okay? Because your identity is bound up with not only what you do, but what you can do. But you do not have full control over your identity. And The Prisoner plays with what happens to an independent chameleon-like creature, in this case, number 6, when they are constrained to a single role marked by we'll call it a flat identity. Now, that point is a little hard to understand unless you've seen Danger Man, aka Secret Agent Man, which is the precursor to The Prisoner. In fact, the reason why season 3 is like 4 episodes long is because McGowan left to go make his dream, which is The Prisoner. Whether he directly stole the character from Danger Man is kind of irrelevant. And the idea that identity is important, but just changing your identity doesn't actually change anything, is significant. So the episode that you're talking about with number 6 and number 12, where they get a doppelganger and they try to switch them out, is significant because what it shows is that a stable identity is required for human beings to exist, in much the same way that Pastor Paul Vanderklay talks about you outsource your sanity, which is correct, by the way. That plays into that episode. You outsource your sanity. Your identity, or the identification markers that people use to relate to you, keep you sane and stable and grounded. And without them, you are not sane and stable and grounded. Now, when you drive somebody insane in some fashion, and this is very much how actual, which is very, very rare, by the way, actual gaslighting works. Actual gaslighting is extremely rare. You've probably never seen it or known anybody that had that happen to them. Sorry, just not that common. The reason why things like that work, or Stockholm Syndrome works, is because we require a stable identity to remain sane and grounded. So you're better off with a stable lie that is consistent than you are with unstable truths that come at you over and over again. Lots of things are true, and most true things are completely worthless, as in not worth anything. And if you flood somebody with lots of truth, and this is very much the way people do this on YouTube all the time, they will get lost and enchanted by too much truth, by the flood of truth, the flood of facts. They'll get lost. They'll become enchanted. They'll become trapped. Ixnat, I am not a number, I am a free man, was the start of the Iron Maiden song. Yes, called The Prisoner. Also, if you want a trip, I always get this backwards, stupid dyslexia. Oh My Darling, Do Not Forsake Me is the name of a band. I have been in the presence of this band, by the way, only once in Cambridge. They have a song that is a shot for shot remake of the opening of The Prisoner. It is brilliant. I showed it to Sarah. Sarah loved it. I mean, their music's okay, I guess. I'm not super huge on their music, but I have like been in their presence. My buddy pointed them out to me once when we were at a club in Cambridge years ago watching. Oh, what's the name? Something zero something. Anyway, which was formerly Think Tree, another local Boston band. Count Zero. Count Zero. You were watching Count Zero, I think, in their first concert, maybe even at I think it was in the Middle East in Cambridge. Famous place, by the way, or at least to Bostonians. And in walked two people, and my buddy goes, "Hey, that's two members of a band right there." And I was like, "Who?" And then I went, "Oh, they look familiar." And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's because if my friends who know about The Prisoner, obviously, if something happens that's prisoner related, they ping me about it, for which I'm very grateful. We don't appreciate all the people around us, that's for sure. And so, yeah, you should look them up. They are awesome. Yeah, they're named after a Prisoner episode, and one of their videos is a shot for shot. It's very well done too. It's amazing. Actually, I'm like, where do they get the money for this? But rock and roll is a rich kid's hobby, guys. Like for the most part, there are some tiny exceptions, but they're extraordinarily rare. Yeah. John God. Honestly, I think number 6 is a template for Jeffrey Epstein. What? No. Maybe template is the wrong word, but you get the idea. No, I don't. Epstein is a prisoner on some island somewhere. No. He's really kind of not. But I'm glad you're completely insane, and maybe The Prisoner is best for you to watch. I don't know. The Prisoner is a wonderful show, though. I do have to grab the DVDs. Well, if I hadn't been sick, I probably would have remembered to do this already, but I got to go into the shed and grab those DVDs anyway. I got to go into the shed anyway and do a bunch of cleaning for the new year here. Maybe get the books out of the damn shed and into the living room where they belong. While I'm there, I'll get my map of the village because I have one. Came with the DVDs, and I'll be able to watch them in a better order than the order they put them in on Amazon Prime, which is heretical and for which someone should be shot. I hate it when people do simple things wrong. It really kind of pisses me off. Young God, I don't know who I like more, Claire or Mark. Thanks. Don't compare us. Did you ever watch me destroy Claire utterly and just wreck her completely? That's why she doesn't come here anymore, dude. Because I wrecked her. I've done it more than once because I guess the once wasn't enough for her. And her flunkies, they tried, what was it, 4 streams ago? I forget. They tried again, and I just wrecked them again. I'm like, we could play this game all day long. This is my favorite game. Ooh, Ixnod knows something. Do Not Forsake Me, Oh My Darling, Episode 1, Arrival. Yes. So good. It's so I love those guys. Weird people. Cambridge. What else? Sally Joe, figure out who's going to get you bit first, and then you will know. Young gut. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, which association is more likely to get you talking to from the FBI or some foreign government? Or killed just because they know you and they're going to kill the people they know first. I don't know. Whatever. I'm sure Islam's perfectly harmless. Oh, wait, you know what? I got that backwards. No, they're not. My bad. It happens. I'm dyslexic. So, you give 2 options, good and bad. I get them confused all the time. I gotta say the masala chai is it's quite good. It really is. Yeah, who people tolerate and what people will tolerate also tells you a lot about those people. And the problem is, I deeply appreciate Jacob's ability to discern good and bad, but his inability to draw lines is a real problem. And I'm probably gonna do a video eventually on this idea that if somebody points out to you that you made a mistake and you just don't apologize, especially publicly, that you're a problem. Like that's a problem. That person is a problem. Um, in a case they don't respond at all, for example, or they don't respond in any positive fashion, right? I mean, if it's somebody like Claire who is chronically a bad actor and can be shown to be such pretty easily, and you're like, "Yeah, we've dealt with you before, you are dismissed," that's different. But a lot of people will just dismiss people who they don't know for the first interaction because they're asking a simple, basic question. And when people can't answer easy questions or basic questions, and they can't be apologetic about that, that's a problem. If they're just going to dismiss somebody new because they asked a question that's hard for them to answer, there's ways to dismiss people politely, and it's that lack of politeness I think that is a signal. It's a clear signal of a bad actor. And there's so many bad actors. It's just hard for me to believe that people fall for the bad actors and that they don't get rid of them. And if you don't get rid of the bad actors like Claire, who's always been a bad actor, like Digital Gnosis, always Nathan Ormond, always been a bad actor from day one. Never engaged once in a good faith discussion. Has an entire channel that is full of anger and resentment porn. Like these people can be dismissed and should be dismissed by everybody. They should be shunned and cast out of polite society. And if you can't do that, you won't have a polite society. You won't have a group. And there's lots of ways to cast people out of polite society. And I'll probably go into that in the manners book at some point. Um, I haven't written any of that yet, but that will be part of what I write for that book. And we'll see how much progress I can make. Still cold recovery here. Hopefully that'll progress and I won't be. I woke up at 6 a.m. the other day though and got a boatload of work done all day. I did not get out and cut down trees though, which I desperately do need to do. But oh well. I think we'll get there eventually with the trees. And then yeah, we did a little cleaning up to do in the yard and it's gonna look awesome. I also have to work on cutting the trails and then figuring out what to do about the springs, the natural water springs on my property. I very much want to do something with them. I don't know what to do with them because I'm not a springologist. So I have to do some more research on that and maybe talk to some peeps. We also found out how to go down and get our library card for the other county we're in, which has a huge library setup because they are the capital city of my state. And they tend to spend way too much money on libraries, which is good for me. So they have like a seed program where they'll give you so many seeds per growing season. I'm like, okay, well, we're gonna plant more stuff, I guess. Sounds good to me. Free seeds. So we're gonna do that tomorrow. That's gonna be fun. I just don't have their library card yet. We just got to go down and bring some paperwork or something and show them that we're not tax dodgers. That's why taxation is not theft because you actually get stuff for your taxes. People keep saying that, and I'm like, why don't you kill yourself and make the world a better place, scumbag? Like, who's supposed to pay for the things we all share? Dipshits. I understand why people are saying that because they don't feel like they're getting anything for their money. And fair enough. Like, obviously, there's Somali fraud and other fraud around daycares, not just the Somalians, to be fair. But also, that doesn't make taxation theft. That might make the people implementing the tax system thieves, But that's different than taxation being theft. Those are different objects with different solutions. Ixnon, have the beavers stopped causing problems? No, the beavers have created 2 new problems right by the house. In fact, why and how, I don't know. Uh, but I do, in fact, need to do something about the beavers. I haven't figured out what to do yet, but that is on the list. A young guy, don't get yourself banned from YouTube. I'm not gonna get banned from YouTube, dude. I'm already shadow banned and demonetized thanks to our evil people in other groups that claim that they're actual groups when in fact they're just a bunch of rebels. Uh, you can't just tell others to self euthanize. No, I'm pretty sure I can. I'm pretty sure I did. It's fine by me. If other people are upset about it, they can be. Um, I can do lots of things that people don't like. I also don't care that they don't like them. I think if YouTube wants to ban me for saying stuff, then they're gonna have a lawsuit on their hands. That's all. And they're probably gonna lose because that's how that works. Of course, you have to be clever about these things, but also Sally Joe. When to stop giving people chances in the group or minimum without remorse would be a good thing to have in the manners book. That's not how you spell manners. Manners. Yeah, maybe. We'll see. It's still sort of taking shape. Um, I think that's it sort of matters what the scope is gonna be, and I don't think we know. We have most of the material because most of the material is rehash and just needs to be, like, rewritten for modern audiences, just to poke some fun at Critical Drinker. I love Critical Drinker stuff. Um, so we'll see. We'll see what goes in and what doesn't. I think actually that when you're in the structure of manners, that problem evaporates pretty quickly. Mainly because what happens when you're in this structure of manners is you gain discernment about a bunch of things. And part of why people don't have discernment is because of the manners problem. Specifically, um, I think that it would be potentially premature to start talking about the rules that apply to the discernment until they have the discernment. And a lot of people do that, right? They skip steps and then other people, typically autists, go ahead and misuse that in a we'll call it a fundamentally important way. And when they misuse that, because they skip steps, they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna skip to the end. I'm gonna take a shortcut." It becomes a problem, right? And then you're not actually helping people anymore. You're giving them the tools of their own self-destruction. So that's a problem. Ixnon, a manners manner. Yes, you need manners to have a manor or to visit a manor for that matter. Uh, manners matter. I think that's the takeaway there. Um, a billion years ago, Yahoo had a chat system that I was on for a few years. Very interesting. They had some regional channels which were quite cool. Also, my prediction about the regionality usefulness of the internet is still proven true, and will continue to do so because I'm not wrong about that. I'm wrong about other things, but not that. I have always been into alliteration, and a few people on there, and I used to play alliteration games. So alliterative poetry is one way to think about it. And we would try to use as much alliteration as possible and make it, sensible and pretty. And I was quite good at that actually. It was quite surprising what I could do. Now my brain is just old and tired and I'm sick all the time, so it doesn't work so well. But yeah, I used to string together, 12 or 14 words, alliterations with, maybe one or two prepositions or whatever that weren't alliterative, and they'd make perfect sense. And yeah, there was one person on their handle was Dilly Dolly Dancer, so we had a lot of fun with that one. You can alliterate quite a bit when you're starting with a name with three alliterations already in it. That gets that gets quite fun quite quickly, actually. It's amazing. I tweeted this out the other day. Um, I think that if you just wanted to not only understand, but also kind of resolve most of the problems we've been seeing from 2025 and we'll probably continue to see many of in 2026, um, just watch the movie Zardoz and the show The Good Place. And problem solved. I'm not all the way through The Good Place, but my goodness, is that funny. It is so funny. Um, I'm really enjoying that. We're speed watching it too. We're not quite binging it, but also I was sick, so it was like, well, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna watch TV and laugh because yeah, I don't feel well. It's bad when I get sick. I get really nasty. It's just short temper and angry. I'm already angry enough. Um, so yeah, being away from everybody and just watching TV, amusing TV is a plus. And it was a real good find. I mean, my mother told me about it years ago, obviously before she died. Um, but I didn't watch it back then. There was a lot going on. She had cancer, for example, and was dying. So I never got back around to it. But I'm glad I finally came back around to it. And it's interesting the things that you sort of notice and see and all that. And yeah, there's a lot of good discernment. And if you want, a philosophical treatise on things, watch Babylon 5, watch Andromeda, watch Blake 7, which is obviously the best science fiction show that has ever existed or could ever be made. Um, it's all there. All of these deep, so-called metaphysical, even though that's not a real term, questions, they're all answered in sci-fi, in great sci-fi books and in good sci-fi TV series. There's another big show. I don't remember what it is. Um, yeah, it's Babylon 5, Andromeda, Blake 7. There's another one that I refer to, but I can't remember the name of it. It'll come to me someday. Um, even just some of the stories, particularly short stories. Sunrise on the Veld. What a great, beautiful story. Lenigan and the Ants. Uh, all of Jack London, because he's awesome. These things, a lot of these questions have been dealt with by authors. A lot of these questions have been answered in science fiction. I just think people aren't engaging in the right media. And that's why they're confused. That's why they can't do discernment. There are some wonderful pragmatic moments in Blake 7 that just really highlight how the world works and what the world is outside of a too familiar earthbound pattern, we'll say. The exemplification of ideas by changing the set and setting and having the human behaviors be universals that never change really gives you a sense for what is real and what is not. Oh, these things happen because people are peopling, not because things around the people are forcing those things to happen, but because people are peopling and these things are not optional. And I'm working on a video on this concept of like non-optionality, right? There's a pre-existing created order to the universe. And we don't know what parts of it are that way necessarily, or how much of it is that way necessarily. We struggle with that. And I do think that's the problem. Um, and why the science idiots or the so-called philosophers, all of whom seem to be nothing more than sophists, struggle with this is beyond me. It's almost like they're just rebelling against the idea of a created order and then claiming evolution. And evolution doesn't work outside of a pre-existing created order. Evolution requires telos to function or to measure for that matter. Why they're confused about this, I really don't get it. It seems like they're kind of dumb to me. I don't know how else to describe it. Low cognitive ability, I guess. I don't know what else to say. I mean, maybe they have a 200 IQ or whatever. I don't know why that's hard. It seems rather obvious that however you came to be born or came into being, there was something here first and you're stuck in it. And there are limitations to how much you can manipulate that thing, that existence, that reality. And it's also sort of obvious that reality is not set. It's something we have a relationship to, an interaction with. And so we affect it. It affects us more because it's bigger than us and all around us. I don't even know why I have to speak this way, but it's clear to me that I do, and that really disturbs me deeply. Fortunately, I had a lot of good training when I was very young, and I became very good at translation of various concepts into vernacular that people can understand. So I'm blessed by that capability, I suppose. And that's a good part of why I do what I do. I mean, a lot of people will say criticize my biggest video, which has well over 8,000 views now. Thank you, everybody. My talk with Michu Peugeot, who's just a wonderful person. And it was bizarre because you could tell they had expectations and they wanted certain things to go a certain way. And they were all trolls because they all made exactly the same comment that was clearly done from ignorance. Now, whether they watched the video and were ignorant anyway, or whether they just commented because it was like one of these troll bomb things, which, to be fair, I know well because I have been a part of such things in the past, in the distant internet past, to be fair. I do not know, nor do I care, because the end result is the same, and I'm a pragmatist, and I care about end results, and I really don't care about the whys so much. Not when the thing is done. Before the thing is done, I care about the whys. After the thing is done, I don't care about the whys. They're not relevant anymore. Those people did not have a gratitude for being able to view a conversation between two people who were kind enough to share that conversation with them for no good reason, with no clear advantage. Not that I didn't make a whole $70 that month, thanks to that and other videos, because a bunch of my other videos also got boosted as a result of that one, clearly. But, suffice it to say the bulk of that was probably that one convo. That's not why we did it. And it's weird to me to be living in a world, because I remember a world before the internet was a known thing. And I was there to watch it become known by the quote normies or whatever. And we're there to watch all the platforms appear and how many disappeared. Millions at this point, no doubt. So I have a deep gratitude for this capability. I mean, I remember looking up the World War II contemporary history on microfiche at the library. I loved all of it. I remember typing in code from magazines and books. I still do that. That's the only way to learn coding, guys. I don't know what else to tell you. If you're cloning a GitHub repo, you ain't learning nothing. You're just taking someone else's stuff. And yeah, reading it helps, but nothing's better than typing in code, man. Nothing. Sorry. Not even close. And there's a reason for that. And the video that's coming out next, probably on Tuesday or Wednesday, on my channel, will highlight why that is true. And I hope it will be understandable. I'm probably going to put my short, which I've had ready and for some reason didn't get out yesterday, up before that. But that'll just be a short. But the next long form video will be about that phenomena. It'll also tie into my into my doc video rather nicely, I think. And then I'll have a short on that too, which will be fun. All of that is already made. We're doing the last editing on the long form video now, but that should be done. It might be done now. I don't know. I don't do my own editing. Thank goodness. No one wants that. Yeah, I don't know. Ixnon, lots of people seem mad that God didn't consult them about creating the world. That is true. They seem very upset. They seem like, bro, what the hey? Yeah, it's a little weird, honestly. But then those people are a little weird, honestly. And that's why I often say people aren't that smart who have a high IQ, because I think being smart is something a little bit different. Being intelligent is one thing, and being smart is something entirely different. And we don't account for the variation because look, we sample winners, we don't sample losers, which is just bad data science, man. Like, you got to know how big your sample size is so that even if you only count winners, you will know how many losers you have. It's super important. And I know it's hard to do. Like, I get that. It took me years of training to do it right. And you don't always get it right, even when you know better. So I know my buddy who PhD MIT, also went to Harvard. Just saying, pretty freaking smart guy, and he is smart and intelligent. He's just kind of a genius. I probably told the story before, but he was working on something with me, and he mentioned wiener kernels. He said, "Oh, this problem can be solved with wiener kernels." So he did. He said, "Oh, I'm gonna help you solve it." So he went and solved it, and then he came back and he said, "Well, I got a 96% hit rate." And I looked at him and I said, "There's no way, dude. There's no way you get that improvement. It's completely unrealistic." And he said, "No, no, I really did." And I said, "Well, did you test it this way?" And, "Oh, no, I didn't run that test." And he ran that test. "Oh, yeah, you see the mistake I made." Very smart guy, made a very basic mistake, because the basic mistakes everybody makes. Everybody. You don't get around it. It's just like, "Oh, I know about these biases, these, psychological biases or whatever they are." So what? That won't help you avoid them at all, by the way. It really won't. Like, I don't know why people think that. I'm like, being aware of something doesn't change anything. It doesn't change you, and it doesn't change the world. Like, that's like a lot of people are like, "Oh, I want to study psychology." And I'm like, "Well, psychology as a discipline is only good if you're going to use it as a therapist on other people. It's not good for understanding, like, why people vote the way they vote. It's actually not good for that, because you have to make a bunch of inferences without knowing the people, and there's an infinite number of correct inferences for people you don't know. That's just universally true right there. So there are some conditions where you can narrow the conditions around long enough that you can know that, but that's hard work to do, and you don't need the psychology in that case, by the way. So what are you doing? And just because you take a psychology course doesn't mean you understand psychological projection, and won't make you less prone to accuse somebody of doing something that you're definitely guilty of and they're definitely 100% not guilty of. Apparently, which is too bad. It's sad. It's also so damn funny. I'm sorry, but really funny. Um yeah, it's more of the same. And no matter how many times you explain to somebody like, oh, this is bad behavior, we're just living in a world where that doesn't change their behavior. It doesn't change their mind. It doesn't make them act differently in the world because propositions have a limited ability to move people. And it's not the propositions doing the moving, guys. I hate to say it. And we can say, oh, that's not true in all cases because some people can be drawn to things because you make them think, because you told them something. I get that. That's extremely rare. It's super important. I'm not saying don't ever, use propositions. I'm using propositions right now. Obviously, that's not the way what I'm saying or the way that I think the world works. I'm just saying it also doesn't really solve the problem you're trying to solve, but other things do in conjunction with the propositions. And it's not just a matter of the correct propositions versus the wrong propositions, because the other things have more of an impact, which explains why so many people with so many stupid ideas get so many views on YouTube. Because it's not the ideas. Stupid ideas get more views than not stupid ideas. You've seen the meme about comforting lies versus uncomfortable truths. That is correct. You didn't get the meme though, did ya? You want to be in the short line, dummy. Now, that alone is not enough information to discern whether or not that person is telling you the truth, giving you good ideas or bad ideas, leading you down a bad path for you, might be a good path for somebody else, right? There's a lot of people that went through AA and they think, oh, the solution to the meaning crisis is just go to AA. Or maybe we just need to modify AA and bring it to the people online or whatever. And I'm not even saying that's a bad idea or they shouldn't try. I'm just saying that is their belief because it worked for them. I don't think it's a good strategy. I like my strategy better. And if my plans that I laid out today sort of pan out, then we'll get more of that moving. And yeah, I mean, for me, especially this coming year, it's going to be all about revivifying the practices. The idea of a new year is about revivifying the year. You had a year already. It was called 2025. This is a new year. In order for it to be a new year, you have to burn off the dead wood, some of it from 2025, right? And create, by doing different things, potentially, a new year. That's how you revivify the year. So my revivification plan is to revivify the practices. So that probably means a third book's going to come out right after I get the manners book done. Or maybe I'll write them in parallel, although that seems unlikely. We'll see if my illness can subside long enough to put me back in super productive mode. Because if it can, I could write 3 books at once. Wouldn't be a problem. And still spend all my time online. Because when I'm on, I'm on. And like I said, I had a glimpse of it the other day, although that tends to happen. So a good hint for SIRS is you get a regular illness like a normal person, which is just a terrible thing. Cannot recommend. And then on your way out of that, as we'll say the virus or the cold or whatever gets, subsides or gets overwhelmed, your immune system is now balanced, at least temporarily. And suddenly it's as if you don't have your illness for a day or 2 or whatever. And that's what happened to me the other day. That's why I woke up at 6. I slept 3.5 hours. And I just woke up and I was like, what is this? And I was all scared. I'm like, oh, this is not good. Because usually if I sleep too little, and I went to bed late because I had a long nap that day, to be fair. But usually if I sleep 2 or 3 hours or, if I sleep under 4 hours, typically what will happen is I fall asleep again 2 or 3 hours afterwards. But sometimes it's worth it because I get the best work and the most work done in the morning, particularly the early morning, especially when I'm all the only one up and I don't have a billion disturbances. I can just pick and boom. So that happened. I was very happy. I'm like, oh, okay, well, apparently this is still all illness. I haven't lost it. So if I can get back there, you know, if I had $1 billion or whatever, I would go to a surge doctor and take care of it that way. But we may have to do that anyway. But we'll see how the year pans out. We'll see. We'll see. We don't know what's going to happen. Ixnat, comfort is not a virtue. That is true. Comfort is not a virtue. And we did gin up 2 or 3 new virtue card games that are card games while we're working on the board game. And yeah, I know, Ixnat, I owe you some more AI work, which I did not do because I was caught up doing other AI work because Anthropic was giving me double credits until the end of the year for like 4 or 5 days or a week or whatever the heck it was. And I was caught up running, 4 AIs at once, 3 coders plus or minus another AI to do whatever research. And in theory, now I have 3 pieces of software for the Android device, although I haven't tested any of them yet. I was going to do that today, but got suitably distracted. I really got to wake up in the morning. Just not waking up in the morning just absolutely kills me. But we'll see. Maybe tonight I can, because sometimes in the evening I feel better. That's why I do this in the evening, by the way. Afternoons are very dicey. I can fall asleep in the afternoon pretty easily, very suddenly. So, and it's always just inflammation, flare up. It's not narcolepsy or anything crazy. So yeah, we'll see what the new year, the revivified year brings. You have to revive the idea of a year. That's why it's a new year. And maybe you do, resolutions. I've never done those really, except to fit in with a group because they really seem attached to those silly things. But it's really not my thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing or anything. It's just, and I mean, you should be taking stock more than once a year of the things you're doing wrong and correct them. I'm just saying. That might be the key to success. Instead of everybody buying a gym membership in January and then forgetting to cancel it until April when they have only gone 3 times or whatever. Fair enough. But we'll see what happens. Hopefully good things are coming. I think I'm going to maybe rewrite or update or write a different sea shanty. I do want to do something with the graphics. Sally Joe, maybe a list of things not to do is more relevant. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to do resolutions, write down a list of things you screwed up over the past year and try to remind yourself of those every day so you don't do them again. That's actually a better way, we'll say, to be better because the world needs you. That's why. And if you want the world to be better, pretty much all you have to do is be better, right? And it's kind of magical and it just kind of works. So, yeah, maybe focus on that. All right, guys. Nobody loves me. It's fine. Or at least nobody who can come on and chat loves me. That's fine. Not a problem. Let's hope that we get more viewers in the coming year. And let's hope that we all get better because the world needs us all. And take care of yourself first and the other people around you second. First, clean your room, right? And get better at that as you go. And yeah, I don't think there's any impediments to next week. If you've got any topics, you can drop them on the Market Wisdom Discord server or drop them in the comments of the live stream and I will consider them. And I think the theme for this year should be better. Oh, look, Sally Joe, better. Better is good. Super chats are good. Super smiley. What's the new thing? They have super chats, super stickers, super whatever. I have all of that enabled on my channel now. So hopefully here in the new year, we can get that rolling. And of course, buy my book because it's awesome. And yeah, just kind of be better, guys. and I will see you next week. Have a wonderful, wonderful week.